This ring was the only thing I could remember my wife. But luckily, the island keeps her memories afloat. Everything you seek is just beyond the door. How do I know this won't be a trap? What you're trying to seek is bigger between you and I. If you open the door, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go in.
Some mighty gin and tonic. Wait a minute. Fantasy. That means I got $1 million.
Bro. Are you okay, man?
Back up, bro!
Are you applying force?
I think you're good. Ha! 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 Everything's fine.
Fantasy Island is a new movie directed by Jeff Wallow, and this film stars Michael Pena, Lucy Hale, and Maggie Q. This film is a remake of the 1970 TV series Fantasy Island. I have not seen that TV series, so I have no information going into this film. This movie right here is all about this group of people travel to this remote, luxurious island known as Fantasy Island. Each person goes to this island to live their fantasies that they always dreamed of having. And then each character finds more mysteries and more secrets within the island. And we have our movie, Fantasy Island. So this version right here is a remake horror. They added a few horror elements to it because the TV series isn't a horror. Does this film do anything good? Well, let's talk about the pros in this movie. Oh, if you're expecting some pros, well, I guess you ain't gonna get any. I was actually hoping if you had some pros.
You niggas in trouble. You niggas in trouble.
Obviously, this disgraceful film doesn't receive no positives within whatsoever. So I have reached to a point where I have had to go within my own fantasy and explain to you guys why this movie was complete shit and why I completely wasted my time in the theater. And also, one of the things about this film, the film had rules. It had rules and regulations it is set up. So these characters had to follow these rules. This film cannot break these rules going forward, but then it breaks these rules within the third act in an abrupt way without full explanation. All they tried to give explanation, but it was vague. If you ask the question again, they'd be like,
Oh, I see you have an interesting concept revolving around its characters. Can you explain what are those morals for each character?
Baffled out of my mind of how uninteresting the story was. Only small percentage they gave me made me a little bit interested of being focused within the movie was the hips on Lucy Hale. God damn, yeah, she was fine in this movie. But that doesn't really qualify anything. Then the film delves into the fantasies of each character and you get to find out what each fantasy is. What the film does, it has separate perspective that the film focuses on. Like Maggie Q's character, she suffers regret that she got deals with. Throughout the movie, the film jumps from each character perspectives. Maggie Q's character is suffering regret, so she's missed out on an opportunity to marry her ex-fiance, so now she's reliving that moment, but yet the character knows that moment is wrong, but yet the character is just allowing things to happen just because the plot demands the film to progress its time. The film misses its stride to develop these characters through each fantasy. It doesn't really do a good job at the characterization at that. And then the performances are just over the top. The potential is there. Like you have an interesting concept, you have an interesting setup, you have an interesting place. So many questions I was asking myself. What's the secrets of the island? Who are these characters? What are motivations? What are their convictions? Is there a complicated moral reason? Is it trying to break down their characters to the core to have them figure out the way to escape the island? It gave out hints, but the execution was non-existent. It's basically like Kwame Brown. If those of you who follow the NBA, Kwame Brown's one of the worst centers in NBA history. But coming out of high school, he was definitely talented. This film had potential going in, but the film didn't really touch base on none of the things, the concepts that it was trying to give hints to, because it's trying to focus on by giving us so much risks and plot twists within its own story that the story itself gets convoluted within that third act. Like the first act was interesting, had some interesting concepts, like I said, but then the third act is like they didn't really care anymore. Like writing didn't really care. They just gave up and they just threw the script in the air. Probably the best performances I gotta say was Maggie Q, but she really didn't really give out a good performance. I'm just trying to be nice because I'm being biased because she's Asian. And Macapina was underutilized. I felt like it. I didn't feel like he was a good fit from Mr. Wark. Certain times in this film where the characters kind of ask for his help or ask for his guide, he just there and just like, gotta live your fantasies. Okay, shit, alright. But the thing about this film has over explanation. Like this film has monologue after monologue of each character has to explain their life in a detailed fashion as if it was sort of like exposition, where I felt like its characters within the movie felt like its audience is dumb. Is that like technically breaking the fourth wall type shit? Dumb. We got characters really explaining and exploring, going in full detail about their lives. I'm just like, y'all just going too far with this. And the characters are uninteresting. You don't really give a shit about the characters' problems. You don't give a shit about the characters' issues. And when characters die, because there's going to be some deaths in this movie, you don't care about the characters' deaths either, because the film doesn't develop these characters to the core, to the point where the audience can even care. To a certain extent. This film had some bad characterization. This film has some bad characters. I guess the only character that stood out was Mega Q. This film was a monstrosity going in it. And the film has some horror elements, but they didn't land. The camera angles were just basic too. Yes, I gotta give Fantasy Island bat nipples. It was so horrible. Bat nipples. Bat nipples. That's my review of Fantasy Island. What are your thoughts of Fantasy Island? Comment below and I'll talk about it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. If you like everything you see and you agree, subscribe to my channel and join me in the Batman family. I'll have more Batman-tastic reviews in the way you have been warned.